Hello and welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate podcast. I'm here with my partner and friend, Rod Kuntz.
Hey, Jim. Good morning.
It's been a wonderful morning. I'm going to post. I haven't done it yet. Of course, by the time you listen to this show, I will have done it. I did this little video for my Instagram feed. It was just about showing up to work, people relying on you to do things. And I just was having this revelation as I walked out to feed the horses this morning. They come running up because they count on me. Right. I'm their provider. Nobody else is, right? And what's interesting, and I was talking to my daughter about this morning too, is I feed them hay and I feed them grain, and they like those things. And we got enough, pasture grass starting to grow right now. They'd probably survive. But you know what? I'm their only source of water. And I told my daughter, I said, I feel the most guilty when the animals are out of water because they can't just walk over and nip at a little bit more grass on the ground or find that seed in the chicken coop. Water comes from us solely because it comes out of the hose, right?
Right.
And I just told her, I said, I feel so guilty when they're out of water because there's nothing they can do about it. And it just got me thinking, like, who are we the providers for? Who relies on us as, the men of our household, as the I don't want to say it makes the money because like my wife, your wife also provides, but we have to remember that people do rely on us and we have to show up in the best versions of ourselves
every day. It's interesting you bring that up too, because water is the life force. Without water, we're done. And what water are we bringing to our relationships?
Yeah, good point. Really good point. Well, this is not the topic, but the other thing that I was teaching my daughter, I got woken up real good. So somewhere on my hot wire line, I've got a short, and it shorted through into the gate. So the gate has never been electrified until today. And the only way we knew that is because I was opening the gate with both hands and it nearly knocked me on the ground because it just caught me right. And I was holding.
I have an image in my mind and I'm smiling, but I feel your pain, brother.
You know what? It's not going to kill you. I can't say it's going to make you stronger either, but man, it scared the lights out of me. And then me jumping scared my daughter. We got wind up here. The horses were going crazy. But we talked about the fence. We went to the equine dentist this morning and spent an hour and a half there. And one of the topics, or what I was trying to convey to my daughter, is you will learn more in this environment. We learned about biology. We learned about math. We learned some English, what not to say when you get shocked. We learned about math. We were adding up how many teeth are in the mouth, how many bites they take. Do you know how many bites a horse takes in 1 year? Can you even guess how many bites a horse takes in 1 year?
I would only be interested in the time they take a bite out of me. So
21 and a million half bites a year a horse takes.
Wow.
I don't know how they figured that out. 21 and a half million bites a year. So we did a little math this morning, but the thing that I was trying to convey to my daughter is, and this is why I tipped the dentist so well today, is with intent, he included us, my daughter and I, in the process. He explained what he was doing, why he was doing it, the side effects of doing it, the positive effects of doing it, how much better that horse is going to feel, eat, how much more weight he'll gain because he's going to be able to chew his food better and get more down his esophagus, as well as riding him will be better because his teeth are in a different position to take the bit. And he did everything with intent. And I believe that if we did more things with intent, we'd be happier as people, but people would learn a lot more than just brushing over it and not including others.
There's something there that I'm trying to get my head around, and I think it's the teaching moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what stands out to me most here is he took the time to make that a teaching moment. He intentionally made it a teaching moment. You made it a teaching moment. from the beginning with
Yeah.
your daughter. And when those two intentions aligned, look at what came out of that.
Yeah.
Something
Sure.
lasting. And it made an impression on you and your daughter.
Well, and here's something that I learned today, and it was completely organic. So I could tell that this gentleman was okay to leave my daughter with, during the process, and I needed to step away to go back to my vehicle. I don't know, a couple hundred yards away. I need to get a jacket out. We got the wind up here, right?
Right.
So I thought, Darylyn, just stay here and be helpful. I'm going to go get my jacket. That was the easy part of the process. The learning portion was, as I was walking back, I was watching them dialogue back and forth. And as I got closer, I'm like, wow, she's having a teaching moment from this dentist. So I started walking slower and slower because I didn't want to interrupt that moment. They had connected, and she was listening and he was teaching. And I think this is a great lesson, not only for me, but for anybody that's listening, whether it's your child or a fellow employee or whatever the relationship looks like. When you see a teaching moment, allow it to happen. But more importantly, maybe create opportunities for a teaching moment. Maybe next time I'll just pretend to go to the car and allow for the teaching moment to happen. Because sometimes I think it just needs to be, one-on-one, that connection that you get when you're, I don't want to say forced into that situation, but when you find yourself in that situation, that teaching moment can happen.
Well, and just to be, again, this is one of those things, to be aware so that when they happen again, to react differently, to respond in a manner that's going to get the most out of those moments.
Mm-hmm.
So just highlighting that today is just putting all of us on guard, right, to look for those moments.
Yeah. All right. Let's dive into today's topic. And this has come crashing into my world the last 12 hours. It's always been here. I've expressed frustration over this before. I've expressed kindly how to not be in this situation to others. It's part of both of our coaching, but I just feel like it needs to be said again. And what that is, Rod, is we need to do the hard work. We don't push it aside for somebody else to do. We need to do the hard work and identify the fact that if it's not getting done, that falls on us. If we want to make a change in our lives, it falls on us. Showing up to a meeting, okay, without taking action after that meeting is not going to make a difference. Showing up to a coaching call without taking that advice and applying it to your own life is not going to make a difference. You have to take the learnings and the teachings and the experience that we're giving or others are giving and apply it to your own life and what you're doing to actually make a difference. And here's probably the grossest example of what's got me frustrated over this and how complacent we've become. And sometimes we put ourselves in a position so that we feel good about it. Like, oh, I'm doing something. But the reality is, if you actually analyze what you're doing, you're not doing anything. So here's my example. It actually comes from my wife's world. She sits on a committee, on a board here in the county. Okay, we'll leave the name of the board out. She sits on a board. They show up once a month. They talk about things. We should do this. We should do that. Hey, how about we, try this? And that's great. That's great. But if that's all the board does, then what good is the board? If they're not actually doing some of that work and showing by example, why do they expect their members will do the same? It's a lot like just shuffling paper in the office, like just pushing that paper further down the road, gets the last person like, this touched 10 hands, but nobody's done anything with it. My wife went to a college class requested by this board that she's on. And the class, it was, one of those 2 nights a week type things. And it was about fundraising. How do we become better fundraisers as a board and as a committee? And they said, the number one way to be successful in fundraising as a board, as a committee, is for the board members to donate actual money to the committee, like literally. And what they said is board members will typically say, well, I'm donating my time. I'm donating my time, right? It's not enough just to donate your time. The act of actually writing a check or donating cash on top of your time is what's going to encourage others to follow along. So as an example, if this board realizes that it's important to support somebody and they're going, hey, we've got these phone lists. How about we get our members to call, these phone lists and help raise money or whatever they're trying to do with the phone list, right? But not a single board member will grab a portion of that list and start calling themselves. Nobody's going to follow along. And I'm sorry, because I'm right, Rod. I see you looking at me, Rod, like, okay, clearly something's hit a nerve. But the same thing happens in these coaching groups. People show up to our calls on Monday nights in our case, and I'm in several groups right now, by the way, and I see people showing up, but nobody's taking that advice and putting it into play in their own lives, except for maybe in the groups, maybe 5%. So you got 100 people, maybe 5 out of 100 are actually doing something. And want to know something crazy about that? Those 5 people that are taking that advice and doing something are succeeding. They're getting exactly out of that group what they're paying for and why they're there. Actually, why everybody's there. They want to have success. So they want something different in their life. They want to learn something. But only the 5% that are doing something about it are actually finding the results. The other 95% get bored in a couple of months, go, well, this doesn't work. I'm out of here. Then they join another group. Well, this doesn't work. I'm out of here. They join another group. It's never going to work unless you do the work. Be part of that small percentage of people, shift the dynamics and do the work. All right. That's my rant.
That's a good rant. And
it's just frustrating because I can see it. I'm a strategist and I can see people that have the ability to have the success that they're looking for. And it's so small for them to shift gears, but they don't.
Well, I'm reminded of a couple of things. and I sense your frustration and I'm smiling because I've been exactly where you are. In fact, there's part of what you're talking about dwells in the back of my mind on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
Because that's my impetus for doing what I do. Mm-hmm. Right? Being a coach is trying to get the best out of your players. And on our team, right, on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate team, we have players and we want all of them to be successful so that we all can be successful.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back real quick to the donation thing, because I actually made a note here when you were talking about that, because a lot of people, it's a cop out to say, well, yeah, I donate my time. If you're truly donating, right, donating has to come from the heart. And that means there has to be a sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And for it to be a sacrifice, you have to feel it. It has to hurt a little bit. And I think about that when I'm writing checks to charitable organizations.
Yeah.
If my heart's in alignment with what they're doing, I'm going to make it hurt a little bit when I write that check. It's easy to write an easy check, right? Add another zero, add a comma. Then it hurts a little bit. And you will get more out of it. Pushing that pain threshold. And we had this conversation before we got online. You need to feel it. People need to feel something today. There's too much apathy with some people, and they don't feel like there's anything to be a part of. So they don't feel like anything. So they're looking for ways to feel. And this is it. We need to be the ones to act first. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to use our example from our group, because earlier this week I sent over some more content for our site, right, for our members.
Yeah.
And I've actually been working on that for a few weeks in my head, just building this list of more things that can change the trajectory in our members' lives, in our participants' lives, if they're actually engaged. And your comment was, well, we can't get them to do the first 5 things that we have out there. Now you're expanding the list. And my response to you is the response I have for our listeners today. And that is, it doesn't matter. I'm going to push in anyway. I'm going to keep pushing in. I'm going to keep elevating the bar. I'm going to keep cracking the whip. I'm going to keep dangling more carrots. I'm going to keep doing whatever is necessary to get this done. And the frustration part is just part of what we sacrifice. We sacrifice some of our own well-being, our mental clarity, so that we can keep being on the front edge.
Yeah.
I don't mind being on the front edge. I just want people to come along behind and fill in those gaps after we break trail, right? If you're a trail breaker and you're just busting through the snow so that everyone else can come by on your trail, but there's no one else following you, that's where the frustration comes in. So be the first one and hope that they're going to fall into that trail at some point. And we have to be encouraged.
Rod, what's crazy about what you're saying right now is that you're breaking trail. And I love that was your response, right? I don't care. I'm going to put it out there anyway, right? You know, if you're breaking trail, here's the frustrating part. You've got a whole bunch of people that are standing there going, yeah, we want to be on that trail. And now you're breaking trail and you're 100 yards up the hill and you're turning around going, well, hey guys, I thought you wanted to break trail with me. Oh no, it just feels good to talk about it. Feels good to be out here at the starting line, but I'm not really sure I want to climb up that hill with you. Even though the trail's broke, even though you've got the skill to get them to the top of the peak. And that is the whole intent here of this show today, is exactly what you're saying. We're not going to cut back and go easy. I'm asking people to step up right now and push through. Don't just be a committee person. Don't just be a board member. Pull your wallet out. Donate some money to that board that you're sitting on, because your time is only the beginning. If you want to be better in business, showing up to my entrepreneur call on Monday night, learning about business is only the beginning. Get on the trail with us.
Right.
I love that.
Well, I'm glad that I came up with an analogy that you could relate to.
Oh, I love trails, Rod.
I love breaking trail. I want people, we're social creatures. I want people to come along with. It's a lot more fun when we do things together and we get a lot more done together. So be the first. And I'll use our group as an example, because we have more than 5% that actually participate. The numbers are increasing every week.
Mm-hmm.
What I like is nobody ever wants to be first, right? Who's got questions? Raise your hand. And then there's nobody. And so we say, well, then I'll turn it over to you, Jim. What do you have? And then someone finally raises a hand. And after that person raises a hand, all of a sudden a whole bunch of hands start going up. And then but the time's clicking away.
Yeah.
It's really easy. Just be first. Just be first. Be the first one to raise your hand and volunteer. Be the first one to ask a question. Just be first.
That's some trail on the call.
It's harder to be first than to be last or in the middle. It's just, you're getting it over and done with and then moving on. So be first.
So I'll tell you something interesting, because, people's behaviors are the same across the board. What you're talking about in our group is the same thing in all the other groups I'm in. When I was coaching with David Meltzer, one of the reasons why he liked working with me so much, and he was coaching me, is that we had 2 15-minute phone calls per month. Okay. That's 15 minutes that I'm paying a lot of money for. When I showed up, I had my questions already prepared, and I'd already sent them to him the day before. Hey, Dave, when we talk tomorrow, this is what I want to cover. And if anything else comes up, I'll throw it into the call, right? And when you start looking at things that way, you're going to get more out of it. If you know you're going to show up to a coaching call on a Monday night, come prepared with what you need and what value you want to extract from that. if you're going to go into work, come prepared to go into work and do the best job you can, and don't be afraid to be the first person. Don't stand outside while everybody's taking their smoke break, getting ready to go in. Don't wait to follow them in the door. Be the person that opens the door first and walks in and says, I'm here to work, not stand out here and smoke. I had the last 18 hours to do that at home. I'm here to work. That's what the kind of people that we want. So let me give you an example. And I hope that there'll be some crossover one day. So yesterday I co-hosted the Clear, Calculated, and Vicious coaching call, which is owned by Rob Bailey and Dana Bailey. And I co-hosted with Dana Bailey yesterday. Same deal, Rod. And a whole bunch of people on the call. Okay, after 45 minutes of a great topic. Okay, who's got questions? Crickets. I'm baffled because I'm going, all right, I am sitting with, and you have access to the first female Miss Olympia, top bodybuilder in the world. But you don't have a single question you can come up with. The door is wide open. She's going, okay, anybody, ask me a question. Be first. Cut the trail. Don't be afraid. Come prepared. Get in the game. Please get in the game. The value's out here. Now, I wasn't the first world champion bodybuilder, and nor was Rod or Rachel, but if you're in our group or if you're listening to the show, you have an opportunity to extract the value that we've learned over 50 plus years in business. It baffles me that people are not willing to step up and even ask the question to be a little bit better. So my commitment, I'm going to give this back to you. My commitment is, first of all, if you're in the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, and I hope that you are, and I hope you don't hesitate to jump in, especially after this call, I'm committed to giving you everything I got. And I'm committed to help you break a trail and be first in whatever you're trying to do, whatever you want to be. You can lean on me to do that. Rod, I got to take a breath.
Jim, thanks for your sincerity. And I know that this is the real Jim Riley. And you're right. There's nothing we won't do for our people. All they've got to do is ask. And let me make this easy for people out there. Listeners, if you're on some of those calls or if you're in some of those meetings, come up with some questions you can ask every time. Come up with something ahead of time that you're curious about, or go through your binder, right? And look for something that you want more clarification on, just so that you can participate and be the first and open that door so others will follow. Do a little bit extra to get other people to follow along. We do that instinctively on our calls, in our classroom, and it spurs other people to be thinking about new ideas. So take a little extra responsibility beforehand. Do it after this call, after you're done listening to this podcast, and write down some questions you have of anybody, your boss at work, the people here, your spouse. What's the hardest part of, how long has it been since you asked your wife, what was the hardest part of pregnancy and childbirth? Now that you've had years away from it, what was the hardest part? What would have you done differently? Make it personal. What was the hardest part of the worst job you ever had? What was the best thing you learned at the worst job you ever had? What's the takeaway that you got from the first time you were, fired? Well, I've never been fired, but the first time that you had a failure. What was your takeaway from that? What was your first feelings that you had from that? Because I'm sure it wasn't good. I'm ready to go tackle another project, right? How long did you stay in the dumps? How did you get out? Who did you talk to? Did you read books? How did you get over it? Right? I remember my first marriage ended, and it was, I'm not going to get into the details there, but we had gone to counseling, and once I realized that I wasn't putting I wasn't going to save this relationship. And the counselor gave me a book, and it was called How to Rebuild When Your Relationship Ends. I'll never forget the title of it because I think I bought several copies of that book and gave it away to everyone I knew who was going through a divorce. And I literally went downstairs in my basement and I had a recliner down there and I sat, it was a rocking recliner, and I rocked and I read this book cover to cover. And when I was done, I was done. I understood all the feelings, understood everything. Yeah, I processed it, and I literally was over it. Not everyone, they take longer. Some people take longer. I got over it, but I had help. I had a book. I had counseling. And then I got a tool that I could use. And when I was done, I was a new person. And I was able to take that information and help other people through that process. That's what we're here to do in relationships, in business, in finance, and whatever your challenges are. We're here to help. So just ask the question. Chances are we've gone through it or a version of it in some way, shape, or form, and we can help. We're here to help.
And I don't think we're just saying ask the question to us. We're just offering that help. Ask the question of the people in your life that can answer. Yes. Or that you feel like can answer, or at least you can open a dialogue with them. I think I said it on the call the other day. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your questions, something like that. It's Tony Robbins' statement. All right, I'm going to wrap with this. I'm going to show you, I'm going to verbally give you an example of what this looks like on the other side of asking the right questions. I got a call last night. I didn't tell you this yet, Rod, from one of our members in the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, the youngest member of the syndicate. And first of all, I got a text. He says, Jim, I learned so much this week from the call. Rod, that was your call. That was Finding Purpose in Your Pain, I believe is what it was titled. And he says, I got so much out of the call. I have a couple questions for you based on what you guys were talking about. I said, sure, give me a call. And the questions don't correlate to the title of the call, but the discussion did. He says, Jim, I'm looking at expanding my business. Okay, well, what are you thinking? He goes, well, I want to offer my services. I want to create my own business. Now, he works for a big company. He does their PR. Let me just tell you, he's in his teens. I think he's 16 now. He does PR. He's the sole PR person for this company. I think he's got somebody that works for him now. And he's successful. He's doing a wonderful job because I see the result of that through their correspondence to me as a customer. He says, Jim, I'm going to do a side business. And he starts talking about what that looks like. And he goes, how do you think I should approach people from a sales perspective? And we started going down that road, and I was giving him advice. And you know what? He countered that. He goes, yeah, I've kind of thought about that, but what about this and that? I said, hey, good point. Right. So we had 30 minutes of dialogue on how he's going to expand his business through the good questions that he asked me and the good questions that he asks on our call. We're talking about a 16-year-old that has success already, but he's not done asking questions. And I promise you, he's not done succeeding. Now, where that call ended is I said, you know what? You have something to offer here. And I know that you're trying to figure out what your sales pitch looks like and how that's going to resonate with potential customers and your reach and all that. And those are good conversations. I said, but let me save you a little time. We got 2 members in our group that own marketing companies. Rachel with Sunday Brunch Agency and Samantha with Back Porch Brands. I said, I promise you, if you call both of them, they both have work for you. Because I know what their needs are. I said, I'll save you the hassle of trying to pitch to other people. I know that 2 people right now in our group will utilize your services. Boom. That's how it works. He asked some questions. We had enough time to talk about it, and I handed him 2 potential customers on a silver platter. And that can happen anywhere. Anybody can do that for you if you ask the quality questions, if you have the quality dialogue. So there is real results when you cut the trail or you get on the trail when somebody else is cutting it and you get involved. That's how I'm going to leave it.
All right. Well, the way I'm going to leave it is this. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's how we learn. In fact, I texted you, Jim, the unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. Okay. How do you examine life? You ask questions. That's how you do it.
Yep.
Okay. So
Right on.
Great conversation.
Good call today. Hey, if you like what we're talking about here, keep tuning in, share it with a friend. That's how we get this thing out there. Rod and I record every single week on topics that he has no idea what they are until I say them. Now it's just our routine. We do have the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate right now. It's first month for free. If you join, if you like us, then stick around. It's $100 a month, basically. And then there's different packages where you can step up and have more of our personal time if you need it. But every Monday night, we are taking questions. We intentionally do 30 minutes of curriculum, or things that we feel are relevant, are important, are things that our members would like us to talk on. But then we open that door to have live dialogue and answer questions. And through those questions, we all learn to be better. And those questions don't have to be on the topic for the night. They just have to be questions. So anyways, if you like what you're hearing, we'd love to have you. Just go to theyoungentrepreneurs.com, or you can follow us on Instagram. Rod, have an awesome week. I love doing this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being my partner. And thank you for making a difference.
Thank you, Jim. And to everyone else out there, share it.